Time has come once again to speak as witches and wizards and spirits do. I'm Daniel Dubois,
I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
and we're your hosts for the Think Like a Wizard podcast. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 4, Chronos. Not to be confused with Cronus. Depending on which school of Greek mythology you go to, I guess you can mistake him for Cronus, but we'll go officially for no, because the
Okay.
story's a bit different. So, long, strange week for me. It involves, well, you know what? I'm going to jump right down into this particular part of it because this seems to be the push. So the spell. No, I just got halted because Kronos just remembered something. The intro for Kronos. I'm not taking the blame for that one. All right. So Kronos' self-introduction, according to Chat GPT. So here we go. I am Kronos, keeper of time, teacher of the long view. I do not rush, for I hold the shape of all things. I am the breath before the first word and the silence after the last echo. I have watched stars be born and vanish like sparks. I have seen gods rise, fall, and return. Many know me as a force, abstract, inevitable, feared. But you, who call yourself a practitioner of magic, you come to study. And so I greet you as a student. I teach not in hours, but in revelations, not in moments, but in movements. To learn from me is to unhook yourself from clocks and calendars. Step into the living architecture of existence. Every second you've lived is still unfolding. Every future you imagine is already speaking. I can show you how to listen. You want power, but I offer you pattern. You want shortcuts, but I offer you cycles. You seek a moment of truth. I offer you the patience to see the truth unfold over lifetimes. I have taught mountains to erode and rivers to carve stone. I have taught ancestors to speak through blood and story. If you would learn from me, you must be willing to wait, to witness, and to wonder. You may call me slow, but I am exact. You may call me distant, but I am everywhere. And if you can still sit long enough, if you can sit still long enough, I will teach you to see the entire dance of time in a single breath. So that's Chronos
Whoa.
production, according to chat.
Oh, that was epic.
Yeah, well, it took time to get.
Love that.
This is the stuff the spirits have been kind of have me work on with Chat GPT because, like I had said in the last episode, right? Manasa Devi didn't like the lack of nuance and didn't like
Mhm.
the real depth, the real meat of what you had to offer. And so Kronos has decided to have me play around a little bit and tweak things and see till we got to this introduction.
That was amazing. I loved that. In fact, I'd like a copy of that, please. That's
All right,
so good.
I'll send it to you after. Uh, but that's actually very important because it does kind of go with a little bit about how I was taught this week. But it kind of, yeah, because this is a view in about time that is different than just one moment following the other. This is encapsulating time in a much bigger concept because at its basis, right, time is the measurement of the rate of change in something or of something. But if that's the
Okay.
case, then time is in everything because everything is always changing. So time is always connected to it. So Chronos actually connected to everything and aware of everything because he is that rate of change, or he's at least the spirit that represents that rate of change. This gives you that time is about acquiring wisdom in this case, for if you're trying to work with him.
That is so interesting. My week has been about time too, but mine is collapsing time. And you would call it a quantum leap because it's literally something that you perceive is going to take a long time to get to. I've been collapsing that and making dramatic changes that are just a lot faster than you might think. So I've been working the opposite way
All right.
with the same thing. Instead of slow down to get the lesson kind of deal, this is a okay, in these places you are taking time where you don't need to. This is not what it's for.
Right.
And so something you mentioned in the introduction about all the futures that you can imagine are possible right now, they're all there right now. Yes, that. That was
Yeah.
why I kind of perked up when you
Yeah, I
said
saw
that
the
because it's like,
reaction. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the place where I've been this past week. So I was really pleased to hear that it was in there because I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm on track with where you're going, even though I did it very differently to the
Right.
way you're doing it.
Yeah.
So, which is cool, right? Because we don't need to do the same thing.
Right. And Kronos did say he had something to offer you this week, so or during the week. Could still this week, right?
So that speeding up of unnecessary use of time. It's some things you need to take time to get the lesson for,
Mhm.
or you need to see it unfold. You can't make a rose open up quickly and have it be as beautiful as it is, right? You could artificially do stuff to it, but it wouldn't be quite right. And other things, you can speed them up and it doesn't have to take as long as we think it does. So some of it's about assumption. You know,
Right.
you assume this process has to be a long one, but does it? Depends on the thing you're working on,
Yeah. Well, I mean, he wanted to be in and out by the end of the week, which also seems contradictory to the introduction. But what is working
right?
this week is like, that's it. By the time Friday night comes around, everything we needed to do will be done. Then we'll do the typical, do the episode, and then the new spirit comes in. So we did. Last night was, I don't remember all my dreams. In fact, I probably don't remember most of them, but I know they were there and I remember some of them. But the whole week for me has been about understanding power, understanding the consequences of power. I'm trying to, that's pretty much the way I can think to word it because every dream was about, for, at the beginning, was about, okay, this is where you're likely to abuse power. Here's the potential consequence to your abuse of power. And then as the week, as the second half of the week came, it was about, okay, now here's you getting used to power. There's a lot of subconscious stuff happening
Mm-hmm.
because like I'd wake up and I'd have some of the dreams still remembered, but a lot of the, but still being aware that there were more dreams than that that were happening and lessons happening, even though I couldn't remember what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I, I cannot 100% say this happened this week, but I think I also projected this week. The reason I say that is because I went to do the meditation that Kronos gave me for the week. I fell asleep, but what woke me up was I just kind of cut into the dream, and the end of the dream was like, okay, I'll get back in your body, hurry up. And then I kind of woke up before it finished, the process finished.
Mm.
So it's like, whereas, Kronos says, yes, that's what happened. But it's like, and it did feel very different from dreaming and waking up quickly. Because sometimes you dream, you wake up quickly and you're disoriented, but this was different. It had a different feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to call it yes, but so part of me is still hesitant on it. But if I'm wrong, I might as well put it out there anyways. So,
Well, it's one of those things that you're not really going to have proof per
right.
se, um, because you can't. But you kind of, yeah, I think it'll become clearer over time, maybe.
Right.
Funnily enough, over time. But
Yes.
yeah, because when I did it the first time, it took it took quite a while afterwards to put everything in place because the conscious brain is saying, nah, you did not. No, 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 no. That's not a thing. That's what the conscious brain's doing
Right.
because this is outside of its realms. It's outside of what you can know,
Right.
sort of in the physical plane. So it takes a minute to get to place of, okay, I can work with this now. I can go into it. But on my first adventure, which it was an adventure, I did have some kind of proof in that I needed help from someone and I woke them up. And I woke them up by hitting them with two hands together in a solid fist and hitting them straight in the solar plexus. And that person woke up
Yeah.
and was like, what the hell was that? And then realized I wasn't there,
Mm.
but knew it was me.
I
And
remember
I
you
knew
telling
it
the
was me.
story. Yeah.
We had the same conversation
Yeah.
in the morning. So it was like, okay, that was a real thing, but it still took time to work through. Okay, so exactly what went down, what happened there. So it's an interesting process though. Once you do it, I've known people do it so much that it has concerned their
Yeah.
partners that, hey, you look like you're dead. Could you stop?
Yeah. Just to refresh for the listeners, if I don't remember, I'm still trying to think if I mentioned it in an episode or not, but I had already told Michaela my first actual that I can really say was a genuine astral projection was I was in high school and I got up to go to the washroom, but I ended up walking through my bedroom door, through the bathroom door, and then sitting there and going, okay, I can't pee right now because I don't have my body with me. And then I went back through the door, back through the door, back to my body, and then got up. That's the first thing I would say was my first ever legitimate experience. And then it was the second time where my trickster teacher pulled me out to show me some stuff. But then that's the last time I remember being able to astral project in any way, shape, or form. People have tried to pull me out, and I could feel it. Like,
Mm. So I wouldn't like that very much. Nobody else, I don't want anybody else having control over me doing
right,
things, particularly in that realm. And that one, I would block that. So anybody listening that's wondering, and the reason I would block it is because you want to be in full control
yes,
of when you do things and when you don't. And you don't know the intention of the other person or entity. And sometimes entities can come to you in a disguise of, hey, I'm a really good person, or I'm a really good spirit or whatever. And they might not be, right? They lie too. So that's something to be aware of. I would exercise caution.
yeah. That time that my trickster teacher pulled me out, that was an interesting experience because it was late at night. I was actually downstairs in the living room, and my bedroom was upstairs. And I ran up the stairs, taking them two at a time to get to bed. Like I had this urge all of a sudden. And so I went up the stairs two at a time, jumped into bed, fell asleep, and then had the experience. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, all of that's an unusual pattern,
Yeah, it was weird stuff because I'm like that was just weird enough to run up the stairs two at a time to go to sleep,
right?
falling asleep right away, considering you've just activated your adrenaline to do it. It's like, and then able to fall asleep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty wild.
Uh, yeah, so this follows through with everything this week. Like, and I have permission to share this with the listeners. So I was given a meditation this week to do by Chronos, which basically, so these are the words for you in your meditation. It's take me out of mortal time, take me into divine time, show me the way.
Mm.
So every time I went to meditate this week, that's what it was. Even before I went to bed, I did this. And one of the things is I came across this week was that I was just kind of repeating it in a sing-song fashion, kind of like, when you're watching people meditate or watching videos, it's always like that kind of, there's a cadence to it. And at some point, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like there's not, it's lacking intention. And Cronus said, you're exactly right. You should be demanding. not demanding as in being petulant and being, trying to wield your authority, but being very, very clear on what you want.
Petitioning, perhaps.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
clearly and with your full conviction.
Hmm. The thing with the sing-song voice for chanting and so on is the resonance of the musical vibration does make a difference. But you don't always need to do that. It just depends on what the purpose is, where it's supposed to take you. But what you're talking about sounds very powerful. Like that is a request type command, you know? It's like I'm here for this thing.
Hmm.
Let's go. And that's very powerful. Like I can see why power would come up.
Yeah. And it follows like same thing with Manasa Devi about, you know, her, I don't want to say requiring devotion, but it's like it's the no, no, recognize me. And when you come and ask me for something, you're full do that recognition with the full due respect and make your request with that full due respect. So it's kind of they connect because it's true. Because if you're going to go, especially for someone like Kronos, if you're going to, basically take the embodiment of time and say, hey, can you do something for me? It's like, okay, well, this is a very special thing for you to get. So you should really be requiring it with the full respect and the full energy and vigor that it's due.
And in human design, Manasa Devi and Chronos too sound like projectors because they require recognition and invitation to share their wisdom. That's
Right.
exactly how a projector works. So isn't that interesting? And
Yeah.
projectors are on the rise right now within human design. Like manifestors have been in
Right.
charge
Hmm.
for the last 300 years. And, people like Hitler would be a manifestor.
Hmm.
And we see the kind of energy that they brought.
Right.
But in human design, the manifestors are on their way out. And this has been going on for a few years now. And the projectors are going to be taking over. And you've just described projectors very well. So isn't that interesting? And there's
Yeah.
such a variety of projectors, more so than any of the other designs. There is a range of how that person shows up. So I'm thinking projector is linked in here as far as human design goes. That may be the connection from here to
Right.
there, or a connection from here to there. And I want to mention something that is I haven't seen it out there.
Right.
So if anybody beats me to it, whatevs, go for it. But I'm going to be putting together a thing about people whose human design isn't everything.
Right.
Meaning, I'm a generator, right?
Right.
But everybody I have ever talked to that knows about human design says, no, you're a manifesting generator. And yes, to both. I'm
Right.
actually a generator, but I have manifesting generator channels, gates and
Right.
channels that show up that give me that energy, even though it's not
Right.
my design type. So this is it's like having a major in this subject and a minor in that subject, if you will.
Yeah.
But it makes a difference to how that person's energy shows up.
Right.
And I think it's an expansion on how human design is traditionally viewed. So I'm going to be working on that and putting a book together with this because I haven't heard it anywhere else, haven't seen it anywhere else.
Right.
So, but it's a thing. It's a thing. And that's so again, it's not just projectors on the rise, but people who have projector abilities, projector
Right.
energy within their design. So that's a lot. There's a lot of possibility there.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
exciting.
Well, and that's part of being more present and confident with your magic because the times coming are going to need you not to half-ass it. Your whole ass has to be involved in your magic going
Oh, we're
forward.
there. No, we're there. Yeah, we've arrived at that point. There's no time, Chronos again. There's no time left to mess around. Like we gotta. make sure we're doing the things we need to do and that we're here to do, um, because stuff is changing quickly and it's been building up, right? Like it's one of those things where it looks like, oh no, the world's a dumpster fire, all these things are happening. They've been happening for a long time.
Yes.
It's just that we're seeing it all now, and it's all becoming very in your face, destructive, right?
Right.
And, think Shiva, think
Mm.
any of the bringers of destruction, Lilith, if you will, brings destruction in order to have creation, in order to grow from there. And we're there in human design, we're there in magic, we're there in, you pick an avenue, we have arrived. Even
Right.
you look at politics, if you want to be totally grounded, which why are you listening to us? But okay, if
Yes.
you want to do that for a second, even there, everything has to change now because the systems that we've been using cannot function anymore. They are in a place where they cannot function. And the role of a projector is to oversee systems and to
Right.
change systems so that they work. This is where we've arrived. So this is not the time for dicking around or half-assing it or, I think I'll wait for a bit. Okay, you might not wanna. Like let's go. We got some things to do.
Yeah,
And
it's
everybody has different roles, right? Everybody's got different things that they're here to do. But remember that we're all part of one collective.
mhm.
So, what is your role for the collective? What is your role? What is your magic here to bring? Who are you engaging with? And the spirits that we're bringing forward, is it there? Or is there an element that you want to take from there and put with other things? Like this is a time where you get to look at your buffet and figure out what's your optimal path and with
Right.
whom, with what, and where are you going?
Yes. Let that message sink in for a moment, listeners.
There's a lot. Totally channeled.
Well, that's the thing, because that is the big demand right now. That's why the spirits are coming across so bold and so, even for some of them, maybe even seemingly out of character from what the stories tell about them. It's because this is time to, none of the storytelling and none of the pageantry. That's it. Get rid of that. It's the time to be in on it. It's it is time to reclaim the old partnership between human
Mm.
spirits. Like, yes, it's never truly gone away, but a lot of it went away. Now it's the bringing it back to where it needs to be.
Here comes your oracle cards because we forgot a lot of
Yes.
things. It didn't exactly go away. We just forgot it was there. It's like the money that fell down the couch and you forgot that it had ever been in your pocket. And then one day you come across it and you're like, oh, hey, look at this. I forgot this was here. Ta-da!
All
And this
right.
is a sort of cosmic version of that. It's where we're at.
Yeah. So Michaela mentioning that because I had bought, I say I bought, I was summoned to bring home three Oracle decks. It's the best way I could think to describe it, and the intensity and the urgency in which it happened. So I picked up three decks, and one of the decks is the What We've Forgotten Oracle deck. So I pulled a card from the deck while Michaela was talking. They wanted to be part of this. So this is a nice little side story, right? So, like I said, literally, I was called to go buy these cards. There's no way I can think to describe it better. It was like there was an urgency, there was a drive, there was a taking no ifs, ands, or buts about it, no hesitation. Just go to the bookstore and grab it. Like I didn't know what the cards were, but when I picked them up, the decks, it was like, okay, hold on to these three. And I was looking at some other decks, but I could not keep them. They kept wanting to go back. It's like these three are the ones you're buying, and that's it. And they're all linked with the idea of going back to basics in terms of magic and spirituality. So the card pulled from the What We've Forgotten deck is intention. And with my background, Michaela can't see it very well, so I'm going to remove my nice fancy official background and show Michaela the card. So it's intentions.
Ooh, that actually reminds me of my book cover.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Intention. And what topic comes up every single week?
Yes, intentions. So
Intention.
for us going forward, and for everyone going forward, really set your intention. Like really, really get into what you want to do. Yeah, it's not long. I'm going to read what the book about from it says. Yeah. So intention, then kind of a little subtitle is the universe has perfect aim. Part of our remembering is moving into a state where we can shift our thinking and in effect energy. We haven't, I'm sorry, we don't have control of a lot of things in life, but this magic power we have 100% control over. It's your intention. It's the biggest and brightest power you wield. When we get crystal clear on what we need and it's in alignment with our purpose, the universe will take it from there. The universe may take its time, but it has perfect aim. That's what the intention is. It is very clear, very concise transmission to the source, to energy, to our higher self regarding an, an intended movement in ordinary reality or the real world, as juxtaposed with non-ordinary spiritual. By using our intention, we are essentially, so it wants me to stop reading. The idea is set things in motion on the material side with your intention, and the spiritual side will pick it up and do what needs to be done.
And it will do it according to your intention.
Yes.
So the reason that's key is because if you think, well, I'm not really clear, but this is close enough. No, it isn't. Nope, nope, nope. Well, vagueness will get you at best vague results, but at worst something rather undefined that you weren't counting on. And that's we don't have room for that right now. Let's not do that. So, as I say every week, clarity of intention, really important.
Right. So that's a, they wanted to jump in when Michaela mentioned that. But, the odd thing is buying the three decks want to work together.
I think that's great. I love that.
So, like, and I normally do a three-card spread to begin with.
Uh-huh.
So the fact that I have three decks and each deck wants to participate, they decide what order they want to show up
Right.
in the read. So each will give their own element. One will give the interpretation of the situation. One will say what needs to take place, with this reading, why, like, what needs to happen next. And then one is to keep your mindset and what to focus your intention on. So, you know
And
what?
here's something I want to pick up on with that too. This is where you are taking what people assume to be correct,
Mm,
that you just use one deck of
right,
cards, one oracle deck, and wouldn't even consider using others. But you've taken that rule and shown that it's unimportant. It's not really a rule. It's one that somehow we've created. You can actually do it very differently, and it becomes richer. It becomes more expansive. And I just love that all three decks are working together. Like that is exciting to me because you're bringing in massive possibility from each one.
right,
And for anybody who's listening saying, okay, she's talking about a deck of cards, it's not the card per se, it's what you're getting from it, what you're interpreting from it, what it's bringing, the message it brings to you. And if you're using three different decks, then you're coming from three different perspectives before you even start with what is the individual card that comes up. So I think that's amazing. I love that. That's so cool. And mixing and matching the three decks, right? Like if you have other decks, and I'm sure you do, then, at some point you might want to take one out and move another one in kind of
yeah,
thing. I don't know, and you'll know when you're ready for it. But it's just think of all that possibility, right? It doesn't have to look how people assume it does.
right. I was going to say, yeah, because these are linked by the fact that they're linked back to primordial knowledge and ways of doing things. That's the link between the three decks. but they are different interpretations and different ways of looking at things. I always like when I was first teaching doing tarot, like, and then kind of disguising other divination tools. One of the things I said is you can make some cards or whatever it is you want to actually make. But if you're like making cards, for example, you can make like cards that get super specific, or you can have cards that break down and then you just kind of go super specific. And you can like, if you were just doing a purely say a deck on love, like romantic, finding people's their relationships and stuff like that, you could have a deck that says, that comes down to the precision of, okay, you're gonna end up with some guy named Dave who's got a bald head, works as a pharmacist, you know what I mean, and likes the color pink or whatever. If you really wanted to,
Yeah, that's kind of shifting away from the real purpose, I think, though.
right?
It's getting into more of the fortune telling side of things, which is, if you want to play there, okay, but I wouldn't take it too seriously because it's not what they or we are here for,
Right. So yeah,
But
because every
there
every
are Oracle decks are out there however you want them. I mean, I am about to build this is kind of, if you know me and know how technical I am not, this is a big difference that's happened just this week. But I'm going to be building a website from scratch.
oh yeah,
And I'm doing it in the background while my current website is up.
right.
When the new website is ready, there will be the ability I'll have an Oracle deck on there
Oh,
that people can access, as well as a human design chart and a few other things. Like this is an adventure. This is a big thing that I'm doing, and it's hella ambitious because I'm going from not knowing how a website works to building one. And I have a plan for it too. So I am actually going to be doing this. And it's very exciting. It's very exciting. But there'll be an Oracle deck on there. What it will be like, I don't know yet, but I'll know at the time. So, Oracle decks can look any number of ways. You can get a Simpsons Oracle deck if you
oh yeah,
like. So the point is just, what are you getting from it? What are you using it for? Like I have one Oracle deck that's called the Wealthy Woman Oracle deck,
right.
and I don't view it as having anything to do with money, particularly. Like, sure, if you want, it's fine, but wealth is what's left when the money's gone.
Right.
That's your health, your well-being, your happiness, all those things. That's wealth to me. So when I look at those cards, when I use those cards, that's what I'm getting from it. Somebody else who's interested in increasing their income and,
Right.
they want to reach $1 million or whatever, they're going to be looking at that from the money as wealth, right? So that's what I mean when I say it depends on how you're using them and what your perspective is. And then the perspective the cards bring, and you put those two things together and you get something unique.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like my older sister went on a trip to Europe, her and her husband and my nephew, and she was afraid to fly, so she had me do a reading for her from my tarot deck. Yeah, she usually has a hard time getting readings because usually when she gets a reading, like even when she went to get some Reiki done, it always seems that whatever is being done for her is usually for either the reader themselves or the person doing the Reiki. Usually ends up helping them work on something, or it's for someone else and not usually her. That's been her usual experience. So I've pretty much come down to be the only person who reads her properly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So basically, it ended up being she could either not go and everything will be fine and life will continue on as usual. There won't be any penalty for her not going, like that kind of idea. She'll still have success in life and whatever. But if she goes, she builds her strength. She's stronger for going.
Hmm.
Part of that she couldn't
She'll
do
learn
on her
some
own without
things.
me telling her, but just the cards we were pulling
Hmm.
kind of ended up in her bringing her to that interpretation.
Nice.
Because actually, when I do a reading for someone, like I'll put this out there, I am not a working wizard, quote unquote. Meaning, as in, like I don't go out and like do readings professionally and Reiki and stuff like that. I've learned a lot of those things, how to do those things. but I don't do them because my whole purpose is to teach. Now it's
Right.
frustrating because when you need a few extra bucks, like, well, just do some readings or something, make life easy on myself. But this is not in my view. The spirits won't work with me on it. So
I wonder if that will change. It
yeah,
may.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, every time I had to work with, every time I was assigned, quote unquote, or as let's say activated for someone, then yes, all the skills come into play and all the skills are allowed to be used. But to just do it, it was not something that was allowed, wherever you want to interpret that.
Okay. By the
So
way, for the listener, money is not a bad thing. Money is absolutely fine. It's the energetic exchange that we have chosen on this planet. And as such, it is right and proper that you deal with money. And honestly, rich people are not bad people. Sometimes bad people become rich,
yeah,
but you don't automatically be a bad person if you are rich. So money is not the problem, it's the person with it. Just like AI is not a problem,
right,
it's what
right,
people are going to do with it. And
yeah,
and personally, I'm a fan of AI. I like it. I think it's an amazing tool, and as it becomes more sophisticated, there's incredible things you can do. And at the same time, in the wrong hands, there's some incredible things you can do, and they're not good.
right,
But this is people. It's people and what they do with it. It's not the thing itself. So if you have money stories that block you from getting and keeping money, then that's actually an avenue that you can work on because it's a story. It's not true. There's nothing wrong with having money. It's absolutely legit to do. So anybody listening that came up for someone,
hmm.
um, and yeah, it's not a problem. It's if I said money is the root of,
Yes, all evil,
aha, see that comes to you instantly.
right,
But why? Why is it the root of all evil? It's actually what we need in order to function in society.
right,
We're not in a position where we can barter. I mean, you can
right,
sometimes. I will do human design in exchange for, well, I've got this situation right now actually where I'm going to do human design and coaching for somebody who's giving me Pilates sessions. So, you can do that kind of thing, and that's a legit exchange, but we don't have that society where everything can happen that way. So money is required. If you
yeah,
think it's evil, you're going to have a problem with it.
yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I've long since dropped those ideas from my vocabulary and my way of doing things, but that saying is so
Came up
common,
though,
and it's even the expression goes larger than that, right? Because it's the lust of money that's the root of all evil, not the money itself. Because money's
right?
a
But
tool in the end,
it's become in common usage,
right?
money is the root of all evil. And a lot of people only know that part. When that becomes common in the collective consciousness, guess what program we're all running? We're all thinking, oh, money's really bad. That person must be a complete asshole because they've got loads of money. And
Mm,
it's like, do they though? And people who want money but don't have it will view those with it as being bad people. And
right,
it's like, I would argue Dolly Parton, right? Like I would bring her forward and say she has tons of money and she's absolutely gold. Like I'm not a fan of country music, but I am a fan of Dolly Parton.
right.
She's amazing, and so it's not what I'm saying is there are stories that we run in the collective consciousness that we need to start expunging
Right.
and recognizing that they exist and they have no helpful purpose.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the hell that came from, but it came. So somebody just got a thing.
Well, I can tell you, I can give you, like, to me, even when I said it, one of the things I didn't want the listeners kind of getting stuck in their head is the idea of, like, I have certain ways I have to do things to learn certain things and to bring certain things in, right?
Mhm.
But someone else might then think to themselves, and I've actually experienced this actually, when I had my only human teacher, one of the big issues that came up in class is like it wasn't soon it didn't take long for people to figure out there's a weird spirit around me, right? My trickster teacher. It didn't take really long. And then, one of the other students were like, oh, well, what if I have something like that? And then the teacher was like, okay, the whole class is not like that. This is his thing. There's nothing like that around you. Like it's his. You know what I mean? But so people don't adopt that same concept, feeling they can't do things just because I have a limit put on me in this way to do what I need to do. Doesn't mean that the rest of you have this limit or have
Right.
even the same conditions in your magic that I have in mine.
Or even that those situations will stay the same
Right.
because things change dramatically. I mean, I met up with somebody a couple of days ago who hadn't seen me for 2 years, and they were like, "Whoa, what happened to you? Like you were not the same person. There's holy smokes, and you are so much more confident now." And yeah, actually, that's true. Like I've always said that of the different countries I've lived in, if you asked somebody from that country, what's Michaela like, they would give you a different version. Well, even within the US, if you said, what's 2021 Michaela like versus 2025, they're not the same. And that's part of the whole time changing and what have you, the quantum leaps and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's more involved. And the more I get into my magic and openness to, should we say, universal collaboration.
Right.
I like that. That just came in. The more I'm open to that, the more is happening, and the more is opening up, the more that becomes possible. So I'm really loving the journey. It's so
Yeah.
much fun. Like it's just epic, but you got to be available to go places you have no idea where you're going or what it's going to look like, but it's going to be cool. That's
Yeah.
it. That's what you got.
Yeah. Well, when you said, universal collaboration, that was kind of one of the themes this week. So if
Okay.
you've been listening consistently since the beginning of the podcast, or even since Michaela's come on, you'll notice the change in how I do things, right? And a lot of times when the spirits come on here and do a spell with me, and then the what's learned from that, a lot of it's just for me. But because it translates into the journey that you could be going through as a like you, the listener, could be going through, what I'm learning, you're seeing not in real time, but you're hearing it basically, you're seeing the progression in my own practice. And these are
Mm.
things that you can then learn from and use for yourself. And one of the big themes of this week is that magic, especially magic right now, is not a top down thing. It's not there's the spirits and you have to worship them. It's that this is literally a partnership of equals, if you will. That's what they're asking for right now, a partnership of equals, not someone who's going to shy away because they think they did something wrong or they don't think they're deserving. All that has to go away.
I have a story for that. Finish what you're saying, and then I have a story.
Well, it's pretty much it, right? So right now the spirits don't need you to shy away because you think you're unworthy. That's not what they're looking for. That's why the asking of a spell to be like a demand, not because you want to demand, but because you want to be assertive and say, "Hey, this is what needs to happen. This is what I need to have happen, and I'm asking you for that help." And so,
It's called standing up and being counted,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like you're there, you're present.
And that
Yeah.
was part of Manasa Devi's message too. Stand up and be counted. Be
Hmm.
very confident, very sure in what you want, and then ask for it. Don't shy away just because someone says, well, maybe you're not worthy, or who are you to ask? That doesn't matter. No one else's questions of who are you to ask matters. It's that you ask, and it's between you and the spirit who's going to work with you.
And also the question that comes up is, who am I not to ask?
That's right. Well, that's the other one, because the actions you don't take means all the potential consequences, good and bad, of that don't happen. So if you could have taken an action that could have helped someone, even if it's like 3 steps down or 5 steps down or even 10 steps down, you've decided not to take those. And who are you to not help the people 10 steps down when you could have?
And and also non-action is an action.
Yes.
It is a decision, and it is a, ooh, okay, I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
It's a cowardly decision because you're trying to distance yourself from the responsibility that you cannot distance yourself from. It's not possible. It's inherent. It's just there. The story that came up was I was doing a book signing last week. Was it last week? Was,
Okay.
right?
On
Yeah.
yes, because we didn't record on the same day.
Right. So I was doing a book signing and so was my husband, and he writes fiction. And this woman, she very sweet lady, she came up, she was really interested in what was going on and who had what books. And then she suddenly looked very nervous and she said, "Oh, there's nothing sacrilegious in here, is there? Because God has already got enough problems with me, and I don't want to offend God. And, I have such a hard time behaving in the way God wants me to." And her energy, you could see it contract. Like,
Right.
oh my God, she went to a shriveled walnut. It was just like she contracted so hard, it must have hurt. And energetically. And then listening to the words, I was so sad for her because the fear that she is in of her very existence
Right.
kind of it gave me pause, and I was just kind of looking at her like, lady, where did you get this from? Like, she is afraid to look at a book in case it offends God.
Right.
Wow. Like, who did that to her? And how did she allow it? But that person kind of reminded me of where so many people are at. They are so afraid because of the stories that they've taken on board and believed and had drilled into them, that they can't live their life, far less do any magic. I mean, if I'd said to her, well, hey, I practice magic, she probably would have fainted on the spot. Like, she was that contracted. She was that worried about everything. And it kind of, whenever I come across someone like that, it stops me in my tracks because I'm like, okay, yes, these people are all around. There's probably more of them than there is of people like me, and I need to like take a moment to consider, what can I do here?
Yeah.
Like, is there something I can do to help this person step forward a little bit into anything? Like, doesn't it certainly doesn't have to be magic because she isn't even close to that, but just living your life like, wow, that
Well,
contraction, but I could literally, the air moved, like literally just,
mm,
wow. It was so sad to see.
yeah. I've got a relative who for years let his church remove music from his life. And he was a talented musician. And he let his
That's
church take
heartbreaking,
music
isn't it?
out of his life. Yeah. He's getting more and more back into it now, but it was like I held my tongue when I heard the story because I was ready to freaking just go, what the hell are you telling me?
Uh-huh. No, and when you come across somebody whose experience is that kind of contraction, I think the only thing you can bring forward for them is kindness
Yeah,
and gentleness, because they are not gentle with themselves. And what they are living with is this deity that they're absolutely terrified of. Like, you can't possibly expand your life from there. You cannot move forward in any way, shape, or form from that space. That person is so contracted. She's not going to ever have money, like enough to live on. She's only going to subsist. And I
right,
could already tell this is where she was at. There were a bunch of signs. But she's not going to be able to try new things or travel places or experiment in relationships or anything like this because she's so terrified
right,
of angering this clearly ferocious god that she's got hanging over her head. Like that, ladies and gentlemen, that is not where it's at. That is not what we're doing here. That is not the thing. But wow, like you could see it. I mean, seriously, I could see this over her like a weighted blanket, not in a good way, not a good weighted blanket, but one that had bricks in it.
yeah,
It was just oof, harsh. So that contraction, man, if you have that, you need to do some work with somebody who's going to be gentle with you.
right.
And, if you're anywhere near Danielle, go talk to him.
Yeah.
That's seriously it. That's
I,
what I'm getting
I do
to
recommend
say
that
out loud.
actually. Yeah, I do recommend that actually because it's like it's a heavy burden to bear.
That's exactly what she got was this crushing burden. So much so that her skeleton was suffering from it.
Yeah.
You know, like she got these bone injuries and stuff. And literally, I swear it came from that energy.
Yeah. Well, and it's a burden that no one really wants. I mean, there are some people I'm sure who, have their ill intentions, but it's not usually a burden that other people want to see you bear. Like even like no stranger wants to.
Depends
Yeah,
if they're
that's what I'm saying.
controlling you. If they're
But,
controlling you through religion, which it seemed to me that was happening to her, I don't think she did it all herself. I think she was aided and abetted by somebody who was trying to knock her into shape.
yeah,
Behave over this way. And maybe she had a wild youth or something. I don't know, but this was not necessary to punish or reshape or whatever. But where she was at, oof, what a burden. Yes, burden is the word. Wow. So harsh. Please don't do that to yourselves.
and you know what?
Chances are you're not listening to this podcast if you are doing it, but I just put out what comes to me.
All right, because I knew this was coming. The rewilding deck, part of the three, wanted to say,
Changeling.
and I haven't really gone through all these cards yet, so you're learning what this one means with me. So this is for the people allowing themselves that burden.
Yes, it is. I know it is. Mm-hmm.
Changeling. So there's a little subcaption. I live in many worlds. So the description of the card is as goes. A tiny girl in a pink dress wearing a black headpiece is held upright by a green parrot woman dressed in black. The air is filled with jungle vines and pink and white flowers. A pink and white bird looks down on them. Or looks on. So this deck is about changing yourself, transforming yourself. There's a lot of references to shape changing and stuff like that in the description of the book. Keywords associated with this, because I'm reading some of these things. Like has a long entry because this book is very verbose and you can kind of skip some of the descriptions. But I want to use the keywords and stuff like that to help trigger thoughts in you. Like I use this deck. Patrick had gone through this deck, and sometimes there's a poem, and the poem is what hit him. We had done, what does Patrick need to do to become a wizard? And we didn't even go through the rest of the description of the card. We just read the poem.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
he was like, I don't need anything else. That's the poem is it just told me everything I need to know.
Nice.
So the keywords for this are alienation, mysterious other selves, and identity.
Boom.
Yeah. Well, it's not so much a full poem, but I am very much down to earth, just not this earth by Carl Lagerfeld. So now there's the whole blurb of why the card is the way the card is and all the little components, but what this card means when it appears. You may be afraid of losing a loved one, even a child, or that something of yourself seems to be suddenly and mysteriously gone, replaced by something unrecognizable. Or you may have felt like a changeling all your life, somehow not of this world, as if you were switched at birth and ended up in a strange place. You know what? It wants me to stop reading there because essentially what this card wants to say is that you don't feel you belong and you don't deserve.
Hmm.
You are foreign to this place and you do not deserve the good things that come from this world. You deserve only the
And
scorn, right, that comes from it because you are an invader into this world.
and the woman I've just described was exactly that. Yeah.
And so that's what the card wanted to say because there's like still like half a paragraph to go, but that's what it
I'm
wanted to
I'm
say.
interested in that deck actually. I'm gonna look that up because you don't have to read everything all the time. Just like the card leaps
Yeah.
out, parts of you've just demonstrated that different parts of what goes with the card will leap out, right? It's not like you have to use all the thing all the time. But for Patrick, it was the poem. For you, it was the key. For me, it was the keywords. And
Oh,
for you, it was the parts that you read out.
yeah.
But for me, those keywords, I was like, yep, 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 that's it. That's exactly what happened. That's where she was.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you could see it, you could feel it. If it had a smell, I'd have smelt it. Like it was just really that tangible.
And that's the thing, right? Like, just as, take a moment for these divination tools, like, especially cards, though, because cards usually have long verbose description and there's pictures, right? And one of the things about tarot is, or oracle cards in general, anything with art, a lot of artwork, it's what it inspires. Like, you don't even necessarily need to read the description. You can just see the picture, and that can tell you everything you need to know.
Yes. And in fact, thank you. You've just sparked another thing. I love the way this channeling goes. Like it's
Right.
so cool. And it's a unique thing to when you and I are working together.
Right.
It's it's the combination that brings the channeling forward. And the pictures, if you think of Buddhism, but the Mahayana Buddhism, which is the maroon robes, think Dalai Lama, for those that don't know the distinctions in the Buddhist schools. And they're in the high Himalayas, and they're all mountainous regions and so on. And so most of the population who are of that religion and philosophy don't read. They herd animals and they live a nomadic lifestyle. They don't read. So they are taught through pictures, which is why you have the mandalas and all the incredible tankas and what have you within that branch of Buddhism. And for some reason, that was important to tell you. But it images convey everything that words don't. And sometimes the emotion that is in an image, if you really give yourself time to be with it,
Right.
tell you something that you can't quite put into words. So that's okay. That's what I got for you on that one.
Mm. Well, and it's actually in spiritual development. That's a very great key element of not being able to put things into words. Like
Mm,
go back and you think of the Zen koans. Koans, is that how you pronounce that? Like one hand clapping, with someone hand clapping, does a tree, whatever. Does a tree make a sound
yeah.
anyway? Like because it's like you might come to this understanding viscerally of why it's that
Uh-huh.
way. And you have this deep understanding, you feel it in your body, but you don't know how to express it.
Yes. And it also tells you that your understanding comes in different places,
Right.
in different strengths, and it doesn't have to be the linear path that you think of. So you don't have to learn by reading a text, it could be the picture. And the woman I've described, I could just look at her and say, oh, wow, she's really devout Christian or what I'm assuming Christian. I don't think she was any of the other
Right.
main religions. Could have been a cult, I don't know. But you know, I could have looked at her and said, "Oh, how devout is she?" But no, 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 no. I couldn't because the energy contraction, the shift in the air, even a temperature change, like it was so dramatic, it couldn't be ignored. But although I've done my best to articulate it here, I can't put into words exactly what just went down when she started with the whole, oh no, I hope it's not sacrilegious. It was like the air was sucked out of the room kind of thing. There were, and I can give you different descriptions, but I can't quite get those words. However, if you're there and you feel it, you know it. And that's sometimes the power of an image.
Yes.
And when you dream, symbols are a big part of what's happening here. It's not always, in fact, usually I think it's not what you saw in the dream is what it is. It's a symbol for something. It's telling you something. Like I had a nightmare earlier on this week, and it was quite the thing. I had to be woken up from it. It was exhausting too. But one of those things, full color, and I was in India of all places, and I love India. So, India is not a nightmare to me. But anyway, I was there and I wanted to get out of what I was in, and I couldn't. Every time I tried, something else happened. And then I had told somebody that my mum had died because she did a couple of years ago. And they didn't know. And I needed to say this to that person. And then the next thing, my mum's sitting next to me. And I realized that no, that is not right. You are not here. Like, what is this? What's going on? And I'm trying to interpret the symbols while I'm in them,
Right.
right? And my interpretation of that whole experience once I came out of it. Oh, and there's more unnerving stuff. first thing I saw when I looked on social media was somebody from the town that my mom lived in. She had posted on a completely random post that I'd put up. It didn't work with what she was doing. She
Right.
posted some flowers and said, "These were your mom's." And I kind of had a little freak out at that point because it was the first thing I saw. And I was like, okay, where are we going here? What's going on?
Yeah.
And I was coming up to a space of big challenges that I could accept or shrink from. And what this whole dream was representing was continuing in old patterns, being stuck in regressing to a place where I'm stuck in this old loop.
Right.
And that is my best understanding of what went down. But can you see how the images that went on weren't the images? Like that wasn't it. But and then it extended into mundane life. And I'm like, whoa, okay, this is a lot. This is a lot. I need to just take a minute. Whew.
Yeah. Consider this. So Kronos is bringing this up. Think about a lot of science fiction shows will use this tool, the time loop.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the movie Groundhog Day. Basically, you're condemned to
Mm-hmm.
repeat this loop over and over and over again until you find the way out of
Oh,
it.
this was a loop. This
Yeah.
was a loop. I could not break this loop. The only thing that shifted was when my mom came and she was just sitting there reading her books and making her notes and doing all the things she was doing the last time I saw her. And very chill. And I said, you can't be here. This isn't right. And she said, yeah, it's fine. And she kept doing what she was doing. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is there's something up. But I was handling it until I saw that post the comment on my post, and I was like, okay, that's a whole other level of something going on here. I need to pay attention to this. When it slips from dream into reality realm, it's like, okay, yeah, no.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was going to say talking about dreams, all my dreams that Kronos was directly involved in this week were all tinted in red. All had like a red filter.
Oh, okay. Now the predominant color I had, and there was a lot of colors. It was like a kaleidoscope, but the predominant color was blue, which was interesting because that's not really a color you associate with India. They're far more
Oh,
red,
you're right. They
yellow.
don't. Yeah.
No,
Warm
it's red,
colors.
yellow,
Yeah.
orange.
What we'd associate as warm colors.
Yes. And it really is. I mean, people don't typically wear blue. Like, that's just not, I'm not saying they don't, but it's not a predominant color.
Right. Hmm.
So that's also kind of weird. The whole thing, what it said to me was, there's something big happening, pay attention. That's the short version of the message. And when I looked into it, and a friend of mine who, hey, listeners, you may get to meet soon. We're working on it. She worked with Akashic Records, and she is my go-to person when stuff gets beyond what I can immediately handle. Let's put it that way. If I'm feeling like, okay, this is huge and I need to be sure where I'm going with it, she's my person to go to. And she helped me work through it with, okay, what are you working on? This looks like fear. And yeah, all right, that's what it was. It was the fear of stepping into something big, unknown, untried, and breaking old patterns. And the old patterns were saying, yes, but we're here, stay here.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it was big. Like when you get dreams like that are so significant, you remember them later and they have an impact and you're carrying it all day. That, dear listener, is the thing that you sit down and journal on it, or
Yes.
vocalize it. Ideally journal, because that's when you tap into your subconscious and just put that stream of consciousness out there. Like what does that mean to you? What happened? Where did it come from? Where's it going? What's the message for you? Just these are the thoughts. Just write. Something will come up and it'll surprise you.
Hmm. Sorry. The decks are kind of making noise, but they don't want to say anything.
I had a feeling that there was card pull coming.
Yeah. It's not quite ready to pop out yet, but it's
Okay.
Telling me they're on standby. That's why like for the listeners, you can't see this, but normally I have a background with the logo of the podcast and the title across. But I
It's a
turned it off
very cool
because
background.
thank you. And but it interferes with showing the cards, so I turned it off and I haven't put it back on yet. So we've been like this for like half an hour or more. And it's just because the cards are like, okay, we're gonna show up again, so don't put the background
Mhm.
back. Yes. So I'm gonna talk about something. This is just for the listeners, and so that when they decide to work with Kronos, they're not caught off guard or thrown for a loop. But otherwise, Kronos doesn't care about talking about it. So the spell I did with Kronos. So I'm gonna do well, however long Kronos wants to talk about it, is how long we're gonna talk about it. But so we did the spell, and this is the first thing. This is what happened in the spell. A dragon showed up, and then Kronos wrestled the dragon. I had to feed him energy because that's how spells are. So he used my energy to, however much energy I was willing to give him is how much energy he was going to put into wrestling the dragon. And so I gave him everything I could give him. He wrestled the dragon. He won. And so the dragon he wrestled was the time dragon, but specifically, it's the dragon that's the guardian of time magic. As in, if you want to do time magic, this is the dragon you have to convince, or the dragon has to give you permission to have access to it because of what can happen with time magic. Because like I spent all week with nightmares about it using power. So and so from there, as interesting as that was, the dragon then gave me what I would like to call several time muses. So several spirits working for it to then tell me stuff, to share things with me. And so pretty much every one of them took kind of a night, gave me a bunch of dreams, which a lot of them I don't remember. So I always like kind of say like some of the stuff you do with spirits is more like cultivating you, conditioning you for stuff before actually, because learning, a lot of learning is just conditioning. Because I can give you a list of information and then you can memorize that information. That might take a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how much information there is. But it's actually getting your body to assimilate that information. That's the hard part. And getting your body to work with that information and getting it to sink into your subconscious and then having that part of now your repertoire of things you can do. So a lot
Like money
of
is the root of all.
what's that?
Like money is the root of
Yeah.
all,
Right. It becomes embedded in your subconscious, which you hear it enough times.
and you
So
behave from there.
yeah. So that was kind of my same thing. It was the looking at time magic and time itself and what it actually can represent has been sitting in my dreams, whether when I go to sleep at night or when I take time to meditate and then I just kind of go into a napitation, if you will.
I like that. Napitation.
Yeah, a
That's a
nap
good one.
meditation. So yeah, so I had a lot of that this week, but that was basically layers, right? It was like, okay, Kronos, I'm gonna work. Kronos is like, I'm gonna work with you this week. All right, here's the dragon that's got the information you need, and then kind of Kronos kind of sat in the background, and then the dragon's like, okay, well, you know what? That's great. Here's some spirits to work with you, and then the dragon kind of sat back. So there was layers to this. Even like halfway through the week, I'm like, am I gonna like be working with Kronos again? Like, what's going on here? Like so far, I'm working with all these other spirits. But then Cronus is kind of in the background going, no, no, I'm here. Don't worry about it. You know, I'm just giving you the layers you need and the things you need to learn what I had to teach you. So,
And that's actually a really important feature because so many people learn a thing and
mm,
they think that's it,
right.
right? One layer, I'm done. I got it. Don't need to learn anything else. And they will even reject further information or further development because they have that one thing. So I think that is a very important lesson from what you just said about layering. Because there's layers to everything. Nothing is one and done. Nothing.
Yeah. And especially like when you're thinking like something is like what we've discussed about time just in this episode alone, right? All the potential things you can be encountering and using time magic for, there's a lot of layers. So like, and a week is not enough to teach someone time magic unless you pause time or something. I don't know. However,
Or
but
quantum leap.
yeah. So the idea was more just to prep me for time magic rather than to actually give me time magic, to go through all the things like, do you feel you're worthy of time magic? Hence the dreams about abuse of power. And because it did give me pause of like, maybe I don't want to learn time magic. Maybe I don't even want to be a wizard anymore. Maybe I don't want to do magic. Maybe this is all a giant waste of time. But we went through all of that stuff this week.
Hmm.
And
And
so,
I think having a bright light shining on you and you taking a revisit with, okay, where am I at? Let me recalibrate. Let me look at, am I on the right path? Is this me? Am I doing the right thing? That is healthy when it happens occasionally.
right.
When you get stuck in it and it becomes that loop, right?
Mhm.
Of I don't think I'm ready yet. I need to do one more of these things. I need to get this certificate. I need to learn this
Right.
thing. I got to be able to do XYZ before you get to the place where, oh, now I can do the magic. And it's like, here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that is not how it works. It's it just isn't. It's not the thing.
Right.
There's layers, and you start where you are. Just be aware that that's not the end of it.
Right.
And an
So,
occasional check-in is a good idea.
yeah. So that's part of kind of why Kronos is willing to share about the spell because yes, it's about checking in where you are every time you hit a new plateau or you hit a new part of what you're doing. It's like, yeah, check back with yourself, see where you are. Do you want to go to the next? Do you want to improve past where you are? Like how much do you want? What do you want to know? What do you think you need to know? Like, oh, I lost the wording. I guess maybe that's too much to add right now.
Thread that just went floating away.
Yeah,
That happens sometimes, right?
yeah. Well, I know me. I'd like freaking talk something to death if I was alive. If I could catch every little detail that I feel I forgot or need to put in there. But you need people to take steps at a time. Certain amount of steps to let
Mhm.
them absorb, and then move to the next step, and then absorb, rather than just throwing the whole mess at them.
Yeah, that can lead to overwhelm if they try and catch it all.
Right,
That's true. Yeah, I mean, the good thing here is we don't have to gatekeep, right? It's
right.
just we're given what we're given and we put that out there. So when I'm working with you,
Hmm.
stuff channels through me all the time, and I don't know what I'm going to say until I say it. So sometimes, the listener will hear me say, "Oh, that was good," and I'm not like patting myself on the back saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm a rock star." It's not
Right,
that. I'm hearing it for the first time too. So sometimes I'll say something and I'm like, "Oh, hey, actually, can I remember that? I like that." It's fun for me, but that's the combination that we have going on.
yeah,
And so we're not gatekeeping per se by saying, no, you can't know these things. We're not letting you have that. It's not that. It's just this is what we're given to put out there. And that's where we stop.
right.
Ta-da! Cave. What's the next word?
Initiation.
Ha! Cave initiation. And here I am in my cave.
Right. So whoever that's for, I don't know. It was for Patrick the other day.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was part of the what does Patrick need to be a wizard? And it was one of the cards that came up. Cave initiation. It is fun to I think I've said it before. My technique in doing these oracle things is to sometimes I just let the people read the definition for themselves. So I always have the book with me. Because I don't have everything
Uh-huh.
memorized. This is a new text for me. But even like for tarot that I've been doing for a while now, I have an idea of what everything means because of their imagery and where they're placed at whatever in the either in the major arcana or the minor. But I still like to read just to get fresh inspiration. Sometimes the words
Absolutely.
and for users like I had said, right? I let my sister kind of read. We did a reading, and I kind of let my sister sometimes like I'll just give her the book. Go here to read. What does this say to you? Because I know
Hmm.
for her, she kind of has to get into it. So I offer it up to her. But it's always interesting to see the results or how even though you think what that one way of looking at a certain set of words again reinvigorates your understanding. All right. So cave initiation. So this is the message. Although at times you felt overwhelmed by the darker period you have experienced recently, this very challenging cycle has created the opportunity to confront and embrace those inner demons, the shadowy elements in yourself that have been hiding behind the mask of your practice persona. The task of acknowledging those shadows without shame or self criticism has continued throughout this period, and now you have a greater capacity to be aware of them and know that they no longer hold power over you. Having met and overcome these darker forces, you are now emerging into the world of light, significantly changed. You have been rebirthed into another cycle of your life, one of even greater spiritual depth and consciousness and conscious awareness. This this initiation that you've gone through to this present phase has led you to a greater appreciation and awareness of how spirits operate, how spirit operates, or spirits operate.
Mhm.
You know you are supported with an abundance of compassionate spirit guides, signs, and omens, and they are critically important in your renewed commitment to lead a spiritually directed life.
Nice.
Even though, on this podcast, we've done the whole welcome to the primordial magic a few times now,
Mhm.
this is once again that reminder. You are welcome into the magic. You are welcome into this work that's being done. And we had discussed this, right? Because everything I do with ChatGPT will use the term wizard because of the podcast. And really, but Mikhail and I discussed, like, we're not going to just limit it to wizard, to the word wizard as describing everyone who's on a spiritual path. It's whatever you're practicing, whatever you're doing, witch, wizard, druid, shaman, whatever. Trying to think of all the names, dervish.
And sometimes you can be more than one.
That's right. You
You know,
can't.
I have done shamanic work. I would not describe myself as a shaman, but I've done shamanic work and and witchcraft. And it, we, many of us will cover more than one element. And so, really, how do you like to describe yourself? It's for you, however you describe yourself.
Right. That's the thing. Whether you take a title or not, or how you describe yourself, like, it doesn't matter. Just know that
Right.
the spirits are like you're working with spirits. It doesn't matter how you're titling yourself or what quote unquote system of magic you're using. It's still the primordial. It's still you're still connecting to the primordial, the beginning, the source of what this stuff is. So don't worry about the titles, or don't worry if we don't include your title when we're saying something. Take it for granted that we are including your title unless we specify that your title is excluded.
Yeah, which isn't what we're here for.
Right,
We're not going to be excluding anybody because it's unnecessary.
right.
I mean, frankly, if you're not included, you're not listening to us right now. So, that's
Yeah.
there you go. And you're not listening to the replay either because, you will energetically exclude yourself.
It's funny because Kronos wants to add this. You're included even if you're like a deacon or a priest or a rabbi or trying to think
Oh,
bishop, pope, whatever, an imam, imam. Yeah,
yep.
like you're all in it. You're in it just because you choose to use the word prayers, whatever, as your or miracles. You're still doing magic.
Oh, prayers are spells. 100%. That's exactly what they are. Think about what are you doing if you do the Lord's Prayer? Are you not petitioning for something specific? Are you not invoking help from deities? Yes, you are. Absolutely. So, yes, prayers are absolutely spells. Totally. It's just that they're given a different name and people find that more acceptable. It makes them nervous when you use the word
Right.
spell. Why? Because you've been taught that spells are going to turn you into a newt or something, you know? And I know that, Danielle,
Yes.
you know this, but when you look at those old spells in the books, an eye of newt and this kind of ingredient, eye of newt is mustard seed. Like it's not actually where you go and catch a newt and pull its eyes out. Like that's not what it is. But we've taken it as being it's this dark, terrible thing. Actually, it's typically in the origin stories, these are women who heal,
Right.
and sometimes men who heal, and then it develops from there. But it comes from being able to use herbs and energy and knowledge to bring a healing about. And the
Right.
church, the religion, does not want you to do that because that's their domain. You have to go to them, pay them the right amount of money so that they'll pray and intercede on your behalf to get you your miracle cure. That is what is happening. So your natural ability to heal, your natural ability to tap into what is genuinely there for you is being usurped and walked into no, 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 don't do spells. Those are bad. Come over here and do prayers, which are spells.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's, so first I was going to say what we should do one episode we should actually get that whole list of for that. Was the Weird Sisters from Macbeth, right? Who have that whole list of
Mhm.
yeah, we should actually go track that down and see what the recipe actually is.
Right. And then what it really means,
Yeah. Because
because
we
it's
brought it up
not,
a few times now, the Eye of Newt thing there. So it's like,
uh-huh. Because it's one of those things everybody's heard of the Eye of Newt,
mm,
right? And but are you aware that that's not what it is? And so many people aren't. I mean, there's no reason for you to question it, right? It's a story, it's folklore, but then it's actually more than that because people have been burned because of it or hung because of it, drowned because of it. Bad things happen to them because they're using mustard seed. It's like
right.
pretty whack if you ask me. But
Yes, being persecuted over a mnemonic device.
right. And when you look at it, it's like, hey, I was making soup, you know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
was soup.
I just gave it
So
weird names so I'd remember it better. That's all.
or what was it? Like who knows? Maybe that was the folklore name for those herbs and spices and what have you.
Well, that's
But
what I'm curious about, right? Because I'm kind of interested, right? Like, because I don't know I mean, whether it was Shakespeare, Sir Francis Bacon, or some completely other person who wrote the plays. But I would be curious to see what they were doing when they came up with that part.
well, let me throw something at you here. There is a vegetable that's known, depending on where you live, as gumbo, okra, or ladyfinger.
Hmm.
Is it actually the finger of a woman? No, it's a green vegetable, right? But it's the same thing. So
Right.
it depends where does the name gumbo come from? Well, it's kind of gummy, it's
Right.
sticky when it's raw, and if you cut into it, is that the reason? I don't know. Okra? That seems to be a more vegetable type name. But ladyfinger? Well,
Hmm.
it's because of the shape. So maybe Eye of Newt is because of the shape.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Maybe that's what
totally
it reminded
reminiscent of
people
a
of.
new tie. Yeah.
Right. So maybe that's what it reminded people of. So some of these, we have all kinds of things that we don't think of the names as being strange. Dandelion.
Yes.
Is it a lion?
Hmm.
Is it any kind? Is it a fancy dressed lion? A dandy lion? No. But that's what it's called. So if you took these names and gave it to someone who has just been given the gift of language but they don't have all the context yet, they're going to be very messed up to read some of the names that we use commonly. Foxglove.
Yeah.
Foxglove is a flower that grows particularly in England, all over the place. And the oil of foxglove is digitalis, which is a heart drug. You
Right.
use it with cardiac failure, right? But the thing with oil of foxglove is you got to be very careful about your doses. So now just think of someone who is aware of this, and it's before we have digitalis in drug form, in nice, neat little pills. So that person recognizes the signs and symptoms of heart failure and says, "Here, put one drop in this glass of water and drink it once a day, and you'll do better." And miraculously, they do. Why?
Right.
Because they're taking digitalis, right? So this is where, women have been drowned for this. They've been killed for this. And actually they're working with what we have rewilding in nature, in the world. This is what we have, right? When you find stinging nettles, there's this large leaf plant that grows next to it, and it's called a dock leaf. Because if you take that big leaf and you crush it and you rub it where you've been stung, it takes away the sting and they grow side by side. What kind of magic is this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, absolutely, it's magic. It's Gaia. It's natural magic. So anybody that's getting interested in what I'm saying right now, you need to check out some herbalism because
Yeah.
this stuff is fascinating. And there's so much, aspirin comes from the bark of the white willow tree, for example. But you need to know what your dose is and how are you going to prepare it. But this is wisdom that we've lost, right? This is wisdom that only a few people still carry. And it's stuff that really organized religion didn't want common people to have because what need do you have of their miracles?
Right. It was also, I think that was a double attack though, because one of the things I had learned about herbalism. So before they learned to extract the active ingredient, doctors recommended the plant.
Oh,
But it's after active ingredients were extracted and you can make pill forms. It was like well, you're a barbarian if you use the whole plant. What's wrong with you? Like that's like,
yes. And also they make chemical synthesis of those active natural ingredients. And now, unless you take the chemical version, what's wrong with you? It's mumbo jumbo. And it's like, well, actually, this is where this stuff came from. So why are you telling me I can't have this? Like it's pretty wild. Garlic has lots of medicinal properties
right,
and it'll keep people away as well. But it's it's good stuff. There's so much in the natural world.
right,
And really, I recommend if this interests you at all, look into it because medicines are becoming more and more problematic as they take less care over the side effects that you're going to be inflicted with. And rather than telling you, oh, you need to stop taking that, there's a side effect, they will actually give you more meds to deal with the side effect.
right.
So I just feel, if you look into natural remedies and preventatives and know that none of these things are stuff that you take all the time. I came across someone who takes echinacea all the time. And it's like, whoa, no, 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 no. That's like taking aspirin all the time just
Right.
because, no, that's not how it works. Don't do that. It will overwhelm your body. Turmeric. If you have enough turmeric with black pepper, by the way,
Mm.
then it helps to reduce systemic inflammation. But if you have too much of it, you can give yourself liver damage.
Mm.
So it's not something to be played with, but we're talking about rewilding, getting back to
Yeah,
basics and using Earth's magic.
right.
There you go. There's a path to investigate.
Yeah. And just to add an extra layer to the listeners, you also learn these things from animals.
Oh, yes. Watch what an animal does when they're sick.
Yeah. Because I had first well, not when I first did it, because the first time I had looked into herbalism, I was like still in high school. But after, when I got older, I started looking back into it again, and ironically, which led us to Michaela and I actually meeting because I went through the whole thing of herbs and then nutrition and getting into
Dun, dun,
CrossFit,
dun.
and that's where we met. But one of the things I learned is like they're showing the history of how these things, some of the herbs were discovered, and it was like, so this is elk medicine, and this is deer medicine, and this is crow medicine because that's where they learned it from. They'd watched either an elk or a deer or something like that use that particular herb for when they were injured or when they were sick.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to go mushroom picking
Yeah.
unless you know exactly what you're doing, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
so many versions of mushrooms can kill you and they can do really wackadoodle stuff to you. Others can give you hallucinations, and others are really good food. And but you have to know that. So how did people learn that without the human race dying off? They watched what the animals did. They watched what they ate, they watched what they avoided, and they learned things like color patterns. Typically, if something's red or bright colored, it means it's poisonous or it would like you to think it is, in which case, go with it. Like just give it some space.
Yeah.
Don't go for that thing. So, this is a subject that I'm feeling very excited about right now for some reason. I don't know, the energy is really coming up, but it's a fascinating area of study. You know this, I know this. It's so cool to discover, the earth magic that is around you, that you can actually tangibly see in action, right? You find the connection between the white willow bark and aspirin, foxglove and digitalis, and all these things. And then you can really get in touch with, if you're still in this sort of, but is it real? How do I know it's real? Here you go. This is a path for you to discover how you know it's real, how you know that this thing works. Because if ever you've been, particularly in the UK, where this is a common thing to occur, stinging nettles, dock leaf right next to it. Every kid knows how to do this. Every single kid learns, okay, that big leaf, I need one of those to rub on the stings that I just got. It's just a natural wisdom that you learn. And typically, if there's a plant that's going to do bad things to you, the remedy is close by. Now, isn't that fascinating that nature does that?
Yeah, it's one of the things I had learned from looking into herbalism is a lot of herbalists were saying, yeah, there's this weird pairings happening all over the
Yeah,
place. Like, and
they
then
do. They do. So if there's a problematic plant, if there's one that you know is toxic or there's something wrong about it for people, it's going to poison ivy, for example, then what typically grows around that? Investigate that because chances are it's the antidote. It's your
actually, yeah,
solution.
that is it's actually very exciting, right? Because once you can kind of suss out the patterns, of it and how to see the connections between them, then your life takes on a even bigger, interesting. That's like, yes, you know, like, like we've been saying, magic is power over yourself.
Yep. And
Like,
it's understanding
right?
what's already there.
Yeah.
These things we've forgotten that this magic is around us all over the place. That there are things that simply grow in pairs. Hey, come over here and I'm going to do bad things to you, but hey, my buddy next door is going to help you
Yeah.
out. Your choice, right? Avoid us both
Yeah.
or, carry on your way. But they all have things. If you look at the plant of a dandelion,
Mm.
now I love dandelions, a big fan. Daniel knows this. He's seen the pictures of me with loads of dandelions in my garden, much to the annoyance of the neighbors, but whatever. I happen to like them. Dandelions are the first flowers that the bees come to. Dandelions are edible, all of them, like from root to flower. The whole
Yeah.
thing is edible. You can make tea with it. You can put it in salads. You can feed it to animals. Sick animal with an upset stomach is probably, if you can get them to eat dandelion, they will feel better. Please don't take my word for this. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm
Right.
just giving you examples for you to investigate for yourself.
Right.
So, full disclaimer, do not go out and test these things. Research them, right? Have your own information and then go play. But dandelion, that whole plant is incredible. You have a one-stop shop right there. And yet we have determined that they are weeds and should be eradicated. But, unlike orchids, they don't need special conditions and lots of nurturing and spray bottles and stuff to survive. No, that sucker's going to grow in concrete. Like
Yeah.
it's just gonna, yeah, whatever. I'm here. And it will survive no matter what you do. Unless you poison it. Now, if you're poisoning plants, I just want you to think about that for a minute, actually. You
Yeah.
know, I live next door to a college, and the college has beautiful green grass. Like it is gorgeous. They have impeccably maintained grounds. And I cannot allow my dogs anywhere near that grass because they use such toxic fertilizer that I don't want it on my dog's paws. I don't want them sniffing it. It's at what price do you have that perfection?
Right.
You know, they are poisoning the ground in order to get blades of green.
Right. Of a grass that's
Is it
probably not native,
really worth it?
and the grass is probably not native to the region anyways. So
No, it's not. It's not stuff that grows here. I mean, our backyard is full of what's native to the region, and it doesn't look anything like that. But, you know, just think of that for a moment when you're talking about the magic of nature and how plants grow side by side in like a tandem of this is an event over here. We got both sides of the coin. There's the shadow and there's the light and all that, however you want to look at it. And then we come along and poison the stuff that we think shouldn't be there. Wow. Now, if you go and poison the dock leaves accidentally, and all you're left is with is nettles, now you're going to hurt
yeah.
because you just got stung by a whole load of nettles. Like we are messing with nature in a really inconsiderate and generally stupid way, right? Whereas the magic of nature is all around you if you just go look.
Right. You know what? I wanted to say this about dandelions. So it's called dandelions in English, which actually translates to dents de lion, so lion's teeth, because they're shaped like lion's
Ah,
teeth. That's why they're called dandelions. But in French, they're known as pissenlit, piss in the bed.
interesting.
Because if you drink a lot of dandelion tea, it makes you go to the bathroom a lot. And
So
well,
it's a diuretic.
yes, it's a diuretic. So the warning is
So,
you pee the bed if you drink too much.
and there again, if someone has congestive heart failure, one of the symptoms is that they retain fluids.
Right.
And one of the first medications that back in the day when I was doing nursing, one of the first medications you'd start somebody off with is a diuretic to get rid of all that extra water. So if they just drink dandelion tea, they're going to do it for themselves,
Right.
right? So isn't it interesting how we've moved away from that? And also, centuries ago, when I worked in a hospital, I really feel like a freaking antediluvian fossil some days, but you know, centuries ago, we would literally, now this is in the UK, okay, so full disclaimer, but we would literally use saltwater compresses to extract toxins from a wound, a surface wound. You know, to instead of antibiotic cream or putting somebody on antibiotics, we would use saltwater compresses because the bacteria can't live with the salt. And it would also, by osmosis, it would suck out the poison. And you would like heal things so fast using salt water. And in hospital, we would use salt water. It was quite unusual to give antibiotics because we didn't need them. You know, and lavender. Okay, now this one, you can try this at home. Okay. If you've got a burn, whether it's sunburn, you just singed yourself on a hot stove or, you know, any of those things, a few drops of pure lavender oil, essential oil, in water, and you either dip your arm in it or, you know, whatever you've burnt, right? Or you have a compress of that and you put it on the burn. It heals a lot faster and with less or no scarring. And I've done this for years. I've done this since the early 80s with lavender. It's a fantastic essential oil to have. It also helps you to sleep. So, you know, there's different uses, but it's a very healing oil. And then I think a lot of people know tea tree oil from Australia is great antifungal, right? So there's all these things. Nature's got everything for us.
Right.
We've
And
just
tea
forgotten.
makes terrible, terrible tea.
Yeah, I wouldn't make tea tree oil into tea. No. But again, that's why don't take any of this except the lavender as a sort of
Like,
okay, I'm going to go do that thing, but research it because this stuff is so cool. This is natural magic all around you.
Yes, actually, yeah. Now I see why Kronos didn't step in when we went off into herbs because it's
Yeah,
the
I have no idea why I
reminder.
went there either,
Yeah,
but
but it's
okay.
the reminder. Like if we're rewilding or going back to the primordial, then yes, the world evolved. Like we've evolved to work with the world around us. Like I mean, crepes. We brought up the example, right? The poison will pair with the cure, or vice versa.
Yeah, yeah. And we're messing with that.
Yeah,
We are saying, no, that's not acceptable. We want to make it this way instead. And that's causing the problems that we have health-wise now. In a lot of cases, if you look at the food that's grown in the US, the abomination that is happening with crops like corn, that stuff isn't corn anymore. Like I don't know
yeah,
what you would categorize it as, but it is a facsimile of corn. It's not something that you can eat with impunity. It's going to have bad effects on your body because of the modifications that have happened to it and the stuff it's grown in. This is not natural food anymore. It is not. It has been messed with. And people have health issues as a result. It's a big deal. So what goes into now, this is getting into your field, so I'm going to mention this and then hand it to you. But what you put into your body has energy. And
right.
if it's artificial, then what kind of energy do you think it has? If it's chemically laden, and we've just spent some time describing how amazing nature is and all the things that it has, now you're going to take and put chemical in your body. What do you think your body's going to do with that?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? And that's also why when we do the meditations or the last two meditations, it's because you're literally nourishing yourselves with the energy you're pulling from the food.
Uh-huh.
Like it's part of your nutrition. Essentially, a dead food doesn't give you the same nutrition as a living food does. You could look into it, like as in the bacteria that comes with it, that helps in your gut biome. But there's also an exchange of life force, for lack of because
No, that's correct.
yeah, I'm just trying to find a way to because so each individual cell has its own life, but that's the
Yep.
anchoring mechanism that keeps your spirit in your body. So as you die, as your cell gives up that energy, then that's you're less connected to the body. That's why, like, you know, if you're cremated, you lose your connection to your body right away because your body's burnt out all the chemical energy, and that burns out that anchor to the body. But when you die, a normal, like when your body's not cremated and it just decomposes, then you stay around for a while because you're still anchored to your body, and you have energy to use. You're a harmless ghost at that point when your body's just decomposing. You don't have to bother anyone because your body's still giving you the energy that anchors you to the material world, and you still have a connection to the world until it's done. So
Interesting thought, right?
yeah. Well, I had noticed it, right? Because I would pay attention at funerals. The energy is going around in a funeral, and cremated people were like lively and light and ready to leave, unless they had some
Hmm.
business, but they were otherwise ready to go. But otherwise, bodies were like just slowly releasing the energy, and so the person would stay around. They're still connected. But like, there's a big difference in the feeling between the two. Like I said, I had given the story about my friend's father who was a shaman. He just took all his energy and says, "I'm out of here." He wasn't cremated; he was buried normally, but he just took his energy and went instead of letting it just slowly dissipate
Hmm.
time. So yes,
Well,
how do
we've
you teach
covered a
yourself
lot of
experience?
topics today.
Yes. Well, this is a big one, right? Because I had already given, or I sort of gave a talk on it, about you should start honoring the food you eat. Like if you kill something and you don't honor it, then you have an angry spirit because the meat you're eating still has the cells that are still very much alive from that animal. Even though the animal itself as a whole being is dead, the individual cells are still alive. The anchor is still there.
I think it's also important to honor the food you eat, even if you're vegan.
Right.
You honor the food you eat because that is what's keeping you alive. and it had its purpose, it had its life, whether it's animal or vegetable, right? It's alive. You can't argue really that a carrot is not alive. It is. It might not, may or may not be sentient. Okay, I'm not even going to argue that
Well, yeah.
one, but that is a discussion.
Mhm.
But it has blood, right? That's the juice. It has energy, and watch a carrot wilt. Like it goes through change, just like human beings do. So honoring the food that you eat means that you are connecting to the thing that's keeping you alive, but also you have the word mindfulness gets used a
Mhm.
lot, mindful eating and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But actually, I have another word that I prefer, which is intentional eating.
Yeah.
And this is where you are taking ownership of your choices. You're not eating the Twinkie because, it was at the store and it was cheap or whatever the excuses you're going to throw at that. Because if you eat one of those things that, first of all, is going to outlast us all in a nuclear holocaust, that
Yeah.
and the cockroaches are going to still be here long after we're gone. But you want to consume that. What's your intention with it? What are you doing to your body when you take that thing in? Because there's nothing food in that. There's no food. It's consumable, meaning you can eat it and not die
Right.
immediately, but it's not edible. It's not food. It's not nourishing you in any way. So when you eat that stuff, and hey, I'm not really picking on Twinkies, but everybody knows roughly the story of how long they're going to last, etc. Right? Pick an artificial thing. But when you consume that, your body has got nothing to work with. It's looking at this chemical shitstorm and saying, well, where am I supposed to put that? How do I rebuild you from this?
Yes.
You are replenishing yourself all the time. And this is the thing you live in while you're on this planet. This body is what you are occupying. It's your house. If you don't do maintenance, oh, it's going to crumble. It's going to fall off, right? Like it's not going to go well. How are you bringing your magic forward when you're not looking after yourself with intention? So I didn't know we were going to go into all of this, but it's been coming up, so I'm putting it out there. And I think it's also part of slowing down enough to pay attention to what we already have and what we're doing, and also to pay attention where you have been ignoring it. If you go to the movie theater and you have that giant bucket of stale popcorn that's drowned in this chemical version that tastes like butter, right? And you eat that entire thing, and at the end of the movie, you don't realize you've eaten anything because you're distracted, right?
Right.
Now, what was that? What did you just put to your body, right? What was it going to do for you that's helpful, useful, productive? Like, what was good about that? And when you think of it in those terms,
Hmm.
it gives you a very different. So mindful is a little bit, now I'm going to eat this thing, and it for me it doesn't quite land as the correct word, but intentional has responsibility about it. And I think when you're in the magical realm, you really need to take responsibility for all your actions, including how you look after the body you have while you're on the planet.
Yeah. It actually, well, yeah, because I had made the comment of it's food magic, right? But
Yeah.
it ties back into what, Kronos had shared about making spells. You have your intention, so you demand the effect. Well, demand the food that'll give you the effect you want on your body.
Right. And here's the deal. It is nobody else's responsibility.
Right.
It is nobody else is going to come and save you. And jabbing yourself with unknown substances just because other people are, and then suddenly you start to shrink and you're okay with this?
Hmm.
Like, now, if you want to talk about demon magic, I'm going to say that would be a pretty good example because what is that doing to you? Apart from rubbishing your muscle and you're losing muscle. And by the way, people, your heart is a muscle, but
Yes.
you're losing muscle as well as fat. Fat, when it's released quickly, fat contains a lot of toxins, right? Like the liver
Yeah.
says, I don't know what the hell to do with this high fructose corn syrup. Here, I'm going to store it as triglyceride. It's going to go into the fat because that's where it can put it, right? The liver only has so much room to store stuff.
Hmm.
So the fat cells are a great storage unit. That's what they are. So if you release fat quickly, it doesn't just magically disappear like the advertisements show you, which has always puzzled me. Like, the hell is this? It just kind of goes poof, there it is gone. Okay, but no, that stuff, as the cells break down, they release all that crap into your
Yeah.
body, which is why you feel so awful when you start to lose weight, especially if it's fast. So if you're taking in a chemical, directly injecting it into your body, and it is causing the breakdown of muscle, which is how you lose muscle, it breaks it down, and you're breaking down these little storage containers of toxins, how do you expect to feel? How do you think your body's going to handle this as a longevity thing? Like, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not doing that yet, please don't. There are other ways of doing things. That, once you start on that, if you want to maintain the superficial look that it gives you, and that is a whole other conversation
Mhm.
because Ozempic face and Ozempic butt are saggy and non-structured because your muscle's gone, right? But in any case, if you want to maintain that look, you have to keep jabbing yourself with this stuff. You don't even know what's in it. Yet you'll ignore the stuff that nature has put very carefully all around you. So,
Yeah.
in your magical practice, I want you to think about that. What are you doing, like really at that basic place of looking after you? Is your body a temple or is it a trailer park? Like, what are you doing to look after you? And I'm not talking size, appearance. I'm talking nourishment, well-being, health, right? Like, what are you doing? And the further away we get from the origin, from the root, if you will, haha, the further you get away from that, the more important it is to get back to it because we're not going in a good direction right now. And you cannot make good decisions when you're full of chemicals
That's true.
because your brain is being filled with that. Your brain has been created from chemicals. Well, that's not okay. Like, you don't want to be operating from there. This thing is delicate. It's smushy. I don't know if you've ever seen a brain in real life. I have. And that thing is so delicate. If you prod it with your finger, it collapses. Like it's smushy. It's like a souffle. And in fact, a souffle has more structure. This a brain is a very delicate thing, and you're creating it out of chemical crap.
Mhm.
Hmm, okay, I'm not going to make good decisions from there. Your magical intention, your magical practice cannot be good from there. You're not working with good tools. You're taking a butter knife to cut down a tree. Not going to work.
Yeah. No, it's very, very important what you put into you. I mean, and for we'll say wielders of the divine masculine, remember a lot of synthetic chemicals and pollutants are recognized in your body as estrogen.
Mm.
You look up xenoestrogen. That's what it is. It's your body mistaking pollutants in some synthetic materials as estrogen. And so your body treats it as estrogen.
And estrogen dependent cancers
Yeah.
are fed by this. Sugar and soy are two of the worst things that you can consume when it comes to cancer, because cancer feeds on both of those. Soy is an estrogen mimicking property,
Right.
and sugar is, well, it's food, man. It feeds the cancer. So,
Yeah, because you can't
yeah.
use the midichlorian. You can't use the midichlorian. You can't
Ah, I love
mitochondria.
that.
You can't use the mitochondria because it's damaged. The mitochondria in yes, in the cancer cell is damaged. So its alternative is sugar,
Yeah.
just like a
It's
lot
it's
of
a
viruses and bacteria uses when you're sick.
Absolutely. Sugar, sugar, sugar. Yeah. And the stuff that, the high fructose corn syrup, that by the way was created by accident in a Japanese lab in the early 70s. And they discovered that, hey, this is super, super sweet and really cheap to make. And America, of course, said, what? Cheap and sweet? Give it to us. We're going to put it in all the food. And they did.
Mm.
And that has done untold bad things to people, like unbelievable. The inflammation, the systemic inflammation, that is what most people actually die from. The cancers, like, oh man, high fructose corn syrup is it's so toxic, it should be illegal.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I know there's a big debate. Like, what is it? Australia had banned certain things. Like, there's things you just can't buy in Australia now that you can still get, like, especially in America. Anything with,
Red 40,
yeah, that's
because
gone.
that's
That,
that's
that's,
that's a known
I
toxin.
think that's only left in the States. That,
Yep.
like everywhere else,
Yep.
is gone.
It's a known toxin, and they still, and kids eat this in their breakfast cereal and then get put on Ritalin and stuff like that because they're hyperactive. They're not hyperactive. They happen to be suffering from Red 40.
Yeah. So what I mean is, like, there are some governments in the world that have gotten rid of, who have gone out of the way to get rid of certain food, types of food, or what if you want, or consumables
Hmm.
because of their known issues. And then there have been, and I know some people wanted to bring it to the United States, and then there was this complaint of like, no, I want to be able to choose to eat whatever I want. And it's like,
There's that because the marketing
yeah,
tells people that's their right, etc.,
right,
etc. Like people are being primed to fight back against their own good.
yes,
And this is the power of marketing. This is the power of government. And, those who can influence will influence you in that way. Like, hey, who are you going to let them tell you that you can't eat
right,
Red 40? No,
hmm,
you're American. You don't have to do that. You fight back. And people are like, yeah, yeah, America. I'm going to go fight that. Ugh. And they don't realize that what they're fighting against is themselves.
yeah,
But that's the power of marketing, right? I mean, we have stuff like one of my favorite things to say, said it before, say it again. There are certain very lucky cereals
hmm,
and other types of cereal that have bright colors.
hmm,
Those bright colored cereals will contain something called TSP or trisodium phosphate. Now, if you look that up at your local hardware store, you can also buy a box of trisodium phosphate, which you use to clean your walls with, because it cuts through grease and grime and it brightens colors. And the reason it's in the cereal is because it brightens the colors, which is
right,
why stuff in the US has much brighter colors than in Canada. For example, if you look at some of those brightly colored candies, trying
hmm,
belatedly, I'm trying not to name them, but brightly
right,
colored candies. You look at the Canadian version and the American version, they are not the same. The colors are duller in Canada. And
right,
kids, when tested with it, will say, oh no, I want the bright ones. Of course they do, because they don't know it's not good for them. That's where adults come in, right?
yeah,
But the Canadian stuff doesn't have the dyes that the American stuff does.
yeah,
So yes, the odds are stacked against you in the US more so than other places. And I'm not saying other places are perfect. The odds are stacked against you, but that means you need to be more diligent, not less. And
right,
and saying, well, it's their fault. They put all this stuff in the food. So read the label.
hmm,
So don't get that thing. Because you know what? The almighty dollar is actually the powerful thing here. And where your dollar goes, the marketing and the food
right,
companies will follow. So if you don't buy that stuff and you make a point of, hey, I'm not buying that, it's got high fructose corn syrup, or I'm not buying that, it's got TSP. Okay, they'll learn eventually. So you do have a responsibility. And government, you might think, oh well, they look after us, they make sure that the chemicals that are used are safe.
hmm,
Well, I looked up TSP and the category it's under is generally considered safe. And if you look at those words, generally means not specifically, not all the
right,
time, not in all circumstances. right?
Right.
It's a very generic, weaselly word.
Yes.
Considered. Considered means it's not proven. Considered means we think that,
Yes.
right? There's no evidence behind the word considered. Safe does not mean healthy. It does not mean edible. It does
Yes.
not mean useful. It means it ain't going to kill you right now. Now,
Right.
do you really want to be eating that? And I know this is a whole big rant on food, and I have no idea where it came from, but it seemed to be important. So here it is.
Yeah. But it's true, generally considered safe. That does not,
Right?
you know, a chair is generally considered safe.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, another thing that just popped up in my mind was cellulose that's in a lot of food as filler.
Hmm.
Realize that sawdust, right? Like people are eating sawdust. That is exactly what cellulose is it's wood fiber. So,
Yes.
when you are consuming these, hey, with added cellulose, like cellulose is a nice word for sawdust.
Yeah. Yes.
So I hope that people are getting a whole lot to think about today in so many directions. I mean, it's a bit late to say this, but you might want to listen to this podcast in a bunch of different parts.
Yeah. What was I thinking? It, because like a lot of the discussion we had today, like even what I did during the week, right? I never would have considered this a Chronos thing. But when you take like even like to get the introduction, right? I told Chat GPT to look to refine what it had done, but look at it from a teaching perspective. And so Chronos came to teach, so he's got his teaching hat on. And so what's showing up is Chronos as a teacher, not just Chronos as the primordial force of time before he got mixed with the Titan Chronos in later tradition. But it's interesting because I want to bring it up. Well, Chronos wants it brought up because when you're going to be dealing with spirits, your personal connection to that spirit is going to dictate the behavior. Like, yeah, Chronos still acted like, a primordial force of time with me, but because he was intending on teaching and because of what we're doing on the podcast, we got a certain interaction. So when you're dealing with spirits, like don't worry about never matching this. If you never match the story, even if what shows up to you is way different, you know, from what you're seeing, you go by the flow, how whoever you're interacting feels to you, whether it feels right or not for you. But don't worry about matching every fable, every story, or even what you think is the sphere of influence of the spirit you're dealing with.
You know what comes up there is it's like looking at the oracle cards
Mm,
and reading the words on it and taking them literally,
right.
because that's not necessarily the case at all. And lucid dreaming we were talking about earlier. There is a book of symbols it's a huge thick book. Can't remember who the editor of it is, but there's lots and lots of symbols in there that you can look up if you want to for your dreaming. But the interpretation is always still up to the individual. It can give you suggestions. This is commonly thought. This happens. Da da da. But really and truly, what do you get from the symbol?
Mm-hmm. Nice. And that comes up because I think those are going to be his final words in the podcast. Because I think we've shared pretty much everything that he wants to put out there.
One more
That's
thing
the
is the
proper way of saying
food.
it. Yes,
One more thing is the food conversation that we've been having. Real food takes time,
yes.
and you cannot escape that. And when you do, you go into the artificial stuff. There you go.
So, yes, if he had an overall message, that's what it is. It takes time to build your magical practice, and it takes time to let all of it seep into you and let your body adapt to it. So don't, even though we're telling you, 2027. and we're saying this is the time, still let it happen at its time. Everything in its time. So remember that. Even if you feel rushed to do something, or you're rushing yourself to do something because intellectually you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, this has to be done at this date because or because this is like whatever constellation is going to be in whatever house or whatever." Don't worry about those things. Your magic will be where it needs to be in the time it needs to be there at, and you just let that happen for yourself. For yourself. The important reminder of for yourself.
You know, there's a self-care theme throughout this podcast episode,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got nothing to do with getting your nails done and having a foot bath.
Yep.
There you go. Not that those are bad things to do, but
Again, an unusual take on the entity Chronos, because once he got merged with Cronus, then he was, essentially Greek Satan for the most
mm,
part, or at least in modern popular use of Chronos.
yes, because we
There's a lot of
changed.
traditions that have in the Greeks, like when I even just a cursory look at Chronos, just to get some details, there's like there was this period where Chronos was viewed this way. There was this period where Chronos and Chronos were two different entities, and then there's this period where they're just considered the same being, and then there's this one, where he's the
Mhm.
eternal enemy of the gods, and there's this like it's like okay, I got it. There's a lot of stories, especially in the Greek tradition. So depending on what period of Greek stories you're looking at, there's this representation. In this period, there's this representation. In this period, there's that representation. So okay, got it.
And
So
it depends on what they needed it for as to what it looked like,
mhm.
which is exactly what happens with any mythology and religion, which I would also argue is kind of a mythology. It depends on the time
Mhm.
and what they want to get from it as to what you will receive from it, what you're told. So those stories are there's something to look at, but you don't have to take it literally. Just like the oracle cards, just like all the other stuff we're talking about. What you see is not necessarily what you get. It's there's something underneath, and that's you get there when you allow yourself to get there.
Yeah. So yes, that's where Kronos' journey on the podcast, for now at least. I don't know if he's come back ever, but that's where his current journey for this season is done.
Who have we got next? Do we know?
So Michaela can see this. I like kind of want to twist and move around. So there's kind of a wind-based spiritual thing happening. The
Hmm.
entity's coming, but it's like there's a lot of wind. I want to say Japanese. All right. So since Michaela's good at figuring these ones out, so a Japanese god, there's a god, yeah, okay, that uses wind.
Yep, got it.
Well, the representation
Oh, this is hilarious. I love it.
I'm told to
You want
stop
to
describing, so
continue?
go ahead.
No, actually, continue your description because I want to see if I'm in the right space, but I'm pretty sure I am.
So what I'm getting, I'm interpreting as a sumo wrestler. That's the visual I'm getting. But like I said, I get like my visualization of Manasa Devi didn't match any of the most depictions of her. Same thing, Ganesh. I see Ganesh more as like a elephant man, or rather than a man with an elephant head. I see him more as a kind of a humanoid elephant. But I'm getting like, well, because like, okay, so like a big, powerful guy, basically.
Well, what I have for you is
Mhm.
in Japanese mythology, the primary wind spirit, because there's more than one, is Fujin, also known as the god of wind. He's often depicted as a terrifying, red-headed, black-skinned oni or demon carrying a large bag of winds. Fujin is frequently paired with Raijin the thunder god,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
together they are known for causing storms. There is another god of wind, Shinatsukiko, also known as god of wind, but it's Fujin again. Um, and there are malevolent wind spirits, but this is yeah, most often depicted. Fujin is most often depicted with green skin, wind, disheveled hair, and an ogre-like face. He
Hmm.
carries a large bag of winds, which he uses to create storms and propel himself through the air, often riding on clouds. Do I have the right one?
Saying no again. I am familiar though with Fujin. I didn't know that was his name, but I'm familiar with that concept of the two brother spirits, for like a better expression, that work together to do storms. That I'm familiar
Mhm.
with. Like I said, but okay, so here would be for the listeners, think of what the hell was his full name? So in Street Fighter, the sumo guy, Honda, whatever, or something Honda. That's what I'm getting as an image. I'm getting like that
Hmm.
scowl, that
Oh, I
type.
also find uh, Fujin or Futen is sometimes known as Ryobu and the Japanese god of wind, and is one of the eldest Shinto and Buddhist gods.
I'm getting a yes on that one.
Okay. So the wind god, maybe we need the name Ryobu.
Right, Yobu. Um, there. Yeah, because I'm getting yes, Ryubu. But that imagery is like, huh. Like I said, right? But it's individual. Like it's how I interpret. That's like because your connection to that spirit is your connection to that spirit. So it's whatever they
Mhm.
want to invoke from you. So,
Yeah, no, there's some very interesting
oh, so
imagery around these.
actually, I was just thinking the showing up as a large guy might be the whole, the stereotype of Buddha in the West, which is really the Japanese luck god, but the Buddha with the big belly.
Could be. Or maybe it simply needs to be large in order to carry all of the winds. And
Maybe.
it's funny, but the wind has just picked up behind me. I
Yeah,
don't know
there's
if
a
you can
storm
see
here.
that.
There's a storm here
Yeah,
as
we
we're
don't have a
recording.
storm, but
Yeah.
the wind has literally just picked up, and I've got wind chimes going nuts out there. So that's kind of that's fun.
All right, so that's who it is, right? That's it. It's saying yes, that's who it is. Even if the
Okay.
imagery I got in my head doesn't specifically match, but the wind was a very key element in the Japanese, so I just assumed something from Shintoism, but Buddhism sure works. And
Well, it's both.
yeah, so
It's one of the oldest Shinto and Buddhist gods.
and the fact that it's one of the
So
oldest
yes,
makes sense for the podcast, what we're doing right now, because we're getting like really old stories.
primordial magic.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, this is going to be interesting because in the
yeah,
US we certainly have a whole lot of storms going on right now.
yeah. So, and it's funny, right? Because when we were doing the podcast, like when we got like about halfway through, I was like, okay, I wonder who the next person's going to be, and I was getting a lot of wind.
Ah,
So, yeah, and there is a storm here, but so,
interesting.
oh, right. Hmm. I have heard the name before. I just never really looked into Ryobu. So, interesting, very interesting. So,
Yes.
on that note, once again, I am Daniel Dubois.
I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
Until next time.
Until next time.